Hey guys, J77 here doing another What's News. This is something that I originally was not going to talk about, but with everything seeming to be settling down here, a lot of people is trying to get some sense of normalcy with family members. And the fact I do have three stories I would like to touch upon. One I've been following for a couple of years. Another one I was hesitant to talk about, and the one in New York, which got my eyebrows raising. I decided at least talk about these stories and make it into a what new segment instead of individual. I might as well touch on the one I've been following for pretty much 5 years. I've been following it through. I have made a video about it when he was convicted, and needed to say that even in his sentencing, there's something major to talk about. Drew Peterson have gotten national attention over the disappearance of his wife, Stacy Peterson. According to him, his wife left him, went off with another man, even though investigators, as well as family members and the media, was not buying his story. Lots of reason is they feel that no one would have done what Drew Peterson stated done without even at least talking to their family members to let them know where they were, or even saying goodbye to their children. She just disappeared, and that was the end of it. That and the fact that Drew Peterson did not show any remorse, any concern of where she was, and the fact that she hasn't even much talk or visited her children, which really raised a lot of eyebrows. This is not the first time he was in the news. There was also reports of suspicious death of his last wife, and that's pretty much what led to him being in prison right now. Was the fact that his wife was ruled originally an accidental drowning, was been reversed when they went back and re-examined all the evidence as well as the investigation to the cause of death, and it was because of the disappearance of his last wife is where he was where the prosecutors and people who was investigating really started to look deeper into this guy, and needless to say, it was that the combination of both that got him a lengthy prison sentence. I'm going to read the article here. I will also leave a link. This is courtesy, of course, of the Associated Press. And the article says as following. Drew Peterson showed nearly no emotion during the trial, yet one infamous Jolter ex-police officer screamed out his innocence before he was sentenced to 38 years in prison for his third wife's death, in an outburst that suggested reality may be setting in. During the courtroom, he screamed, "I did not kill Catherine," Peterson shouted as he lead into the courtroom microphone on Thursday, emphasizing each of the 5 words. Without missing a beat, his dead wife's sister, Susan Dorman, shouted back, "Yes, you did, you liar," before the judge ordered the sheriff deputies to remove her from the courtroom. So it was definitely one of the most intensifying sentencing courtrooms that I probably have read in a while. For years, Peterson casually dismissed and even joked about suggestions he killed his third wife, Catherine Savio, in 2004, or that he was behind the 2007 disappearance of his fourth wife, Stacy Peterson. He certainly exposed his sudden explosion of fury Thursday, as he stepped up to address the judge who would sentence him for Savo's death. Savo's death. Death left spectators gasping. Lead state prosecutor James Gallows, I believe, said its explosion exposed it exposed the real Drew Peterson, the one more than capable of murder. We all got the opportunity to see a psychopath reveal himself in court, the prosecutor told reporters shortly after Thursday's hearing. That show shrieked, "That's the guy that killed Kathy." It was scary, Norman added later. This is what my sister had to go through. I'll continue reading. It is the climax. It was the climax in the long-running drama that had played out in the media and speculation that Peterson sought to use his law enforcement um, expertise to get away with murder. Chavez' death was intentionally ruled an accident after her body was found jammed into a dry bathtub at her home. Um, a gas on her back of her head, uh, and her hair soaked in blood. At the Stacy Peterson 2000. Sorry, no, let me repeat that again. um, Her home, a gash on the back of her head, and her hair soaked with blood. It was Stacy Peterson's 2007 disappearance that prompted authorities to take another look at the eventually reclassified Sowell's death as a homicide. But the sentence likely isn't the end of the story. Prosecutors said that they could charge Peterson in the disappearance of the fourth wife who vanished when she was 23 years old. An appeal also awaits the defense attorney, believing the conviction could easily get tossed. Now I'll get to that in a minute, because that's something that is very important. I think a lot of people who have been found this case already had, pretty much painted what actually happened, needs to keep in mind. In part because prosecutors heavily relied on hearsay evidence. It is a good chance of a successful appeal in any case I have ever seen. One of the Peterson attorney have said late Thursday. Illinois does not have the death penalty, and the 59-year-old Peterson could face a maximum of 6 years in prison term. Judge Edward gave him 4 years credit for time he has served since his 2009 arrest. Before the sentencing, it was announced that Peterson stated in a statement to the judge with his stalling scream, then went for 30 more minutes, continuing the most harsh tone, crying and trying to restrain his composure at the time. His voice quivered and his hands were shaking, and he reached for his glass of water. I love Kathy. She was a good mom, she said, tearing up. She did not deserve to die, but she died in an accident. At the time, Peterson seems to wallow in self-pity, telling the judge tearfully, I don't deserve this." Another time, she sneered, blaming prosecutors for what he called a largest railroad job ever in his case. Minutes later, Peterson glared at the judge and challenged him to look him in the eyes. Who has been taking notes, laid down his pen and folded his arms and looked straight back at Peterson. "Never forget what you've done here." Wow. I will leave a link below so you guys can read. I do apologize again. I went a little too fast on the article. My mistake. Yeah. This is one of those cases that I do not see ending anytime soon. And for reasons, I'm going to go back to the appeals process. There is a very good chance he can get off. Because, again, they had no evidence that pinpoint him as committing the murder or even the disappearance of his fourth wife. And it's very sad too, because I do believe he killed her. I really do. When this story first came out, the first thing I noticed is how arrogant he was, how much he was challenging authorities to prove that he had any involvement. The fact that he wasn't even concerned about his wife, who left him. Never really called the children, never really called his family members. There was no concern of that. It's just, he ran over with another man, and that's it. And that's something that even any person will scratch their head and ask, really? You really don't feel no concern? You're not even upset? You're not even sad? Also, keep in mind that there was actually reports from family members as well as a divorce attorney because she was actually seeking for a divorce about her fears for this man and how much she threatened her and how much she believes that he have indeed killed his third wife, and pretty much that pretty much prompted this whole situation where yeah he probably have something to do with her just disappearing. This was a wild, wild circus with the media. The media was covering this pretty much constantly, day after day. There was actually a widespread search all over Chicago. They actually have found a barrel, but it led to nothing. And the whole time, you seeing this guy who was just making a mockery out of the law. There was actually he at one point he actually had something up saying want a date with David Peterson that came up. So he really showed no type of empathy or remorse of any kind or worried for any kind for his missing wife. And that's something that always, that's something that really, really bothers me. And no one was buying this. And because of that, they was forced to pretty much go back to look at his third wife's death. And sure enough, they realized, hey, something's going on. This was a homicide. We gotta investigate this further. They finally did. They finally hold him accountable for his wife's death. But my feeling towards this whole thing is this could have been done. Have an independent investigator done their job. I have made it very clear that the last thing you want an organization to do is try to police themselves, because there's always one chance that pretty much 95% of the time they are not going to do their job based on the evidence at hand or based on strictly keeping themselves neutral from everything else. They're just going to go by, well, he's a good cop, he's a good guy. I've been working for years. He would never do something like this. I can't see that. And they would afford it, and rather than do the investigation, they'll just throw it aside saying, oh, it was an accident. I've seen it too many times. That's why we have internal affairs. I'm a little surprised internal affairs didn't get involved when the third wife had passed away. But the internal affairs should have gotten involved in that. That's the time when internal affairs should be getting involved, because they can do the investigation. There is no link towards them. There's no bounding contract that they have to apply by the cops. They're their own unit, and they can investigate what actually happened. Unfortunately, that was not the case in this situation. And it brings me to another question: is the forensics test. Why it was ruled an accident the first time, even though it was suspicious way before then, and now ruled a homicide the next time? What was it that they actually found? That was something they never truly explained, which does raise the question of how how much faith can we have with a person who's supposed to determine the cause of death if they dropped the ball the first time. So these are the things that really came to my mind. So when I heard about this case, I said there's going to be a 50-50 chance that he may get off, just in the fact they had really nothing on him. Years have passed. The evidence that they could have collected was never collected. And it was going by people's words. It was going by people testimony on things. They wasn't there. They didn't see the crime being taken place. They're going by testimony that is very, very shaky. And I know what you're saying. They say, well, if they said that they had done it, if everybody's saying the same thing, how can it be shaky? People can make mistakes on their statements. That can happen. Even if they're being honest about it, they can actually tell a lie and not even know it. And when you have he say, she say, that is always a dangerous situation. That's why you always want to have something that is undisputable, is right there, it's in their face. This is why we believe he did it. There's fingerprints here. There's been blood sample where this blood came from. It's his suitcase. Once you got that, then the evidence becomes strong. But when you go on here and say he say, that person could be lying just to get him in jail. So that's the whole thing, that why he does have a legitimate chance to get out, which is something it sickens me, because I do believe he did it. I do believe he killed his wife and dismembered the body somewhere in the middle of the woods or somewhere else where it can't be found. And I also believe, and I'm putting some of the blame on the police, because he has such a good rapport with the police department, they didn't do a thorough investigation. They did not. You can't tell me that one minute you ruled an accident, next thing you know it's not homicide. Something's wrong with that picture. That means it tells me that somebody around here didn't do the job properly. And that's something that I'm even surprised that even the investigators or the internal affairs didn't do an investigate on. And I'm very, very concerned about that. Again, I think he did it. I think the fact that now, I think the fact that he's screaming, yelling, I'll call it like it is. I think that he never thought he was going to get caught. That he's going to get off. His police record is there. He thought he would never get caught. And even when the guilty verdict happened, he still denied. I can't believe I got caught. I'm a cop. Cops not supposed to go to jail, especially with this situation. When it was obvious, and keep in mind, when it was obvious that something may be up with this guy, the police department didn't want nothing to do with him because they realized something's not right with him. But the point is, there's this idea that I'm untouchable. Well, he just found the hard way. He got touched. And he's going to be spending some time in prison. But keep also in mind, he may also win an appeal. And like I said, when you go for instrumental evidence, he say, that's not always hold up in civil court. I'm just making you know. He may actually get off. But in any case, that's my feeling on that. I think for the most part, for now, justice was served. Hopefully, they can continue to search to find his last wife. Hopefully, they can find him so the family can have peace, can have insurance that we now can bury her and give her the proper resting place that she truly deserves. But as far as this guy, yeah, I do believe he did it. I felt he did it the minute I heard the report. Me and a bunch of other guys has followed this, and unfortunately, there's also a possibility because of the he say testimony and no evidence that can link him to his wife's appearance as well as his previous wife, his last wife's murder. It may be a possibility he may get off. So I'll leave a link below. You guys can give me your own opinion on that matter. I'll head to the second story, and that's Pope Benedict. As you know, this morning he gave his final blessing to tens of thousands in St. Peter's Square. Something that a lot of people, was very teary-eyed from. Pope, and according to this article, Pope Benedict gave his final blessing from his studio window to the cheers of tens of thousands of people packing St. Peter's Square, but sought to reassure the faithfuls that he wasn't abandoning the church by retiring, spending his final years in prayer. He's the 85-year-old Benedict is stepping down on Thursday evening, the first pope to do so in 600 years. After saying he no longer has the mental or physical strength to lead the world to 1.2 billion Catholics. But while his legacy looked tired and frail, while he has lately looked tired and frail, the crowd filling the cobblestone square seemed to energize him, and he spoke in a clear, strong voice, respectfully thanking his faithfuls for their closeness and affection as they interrupted him again and again with applause and cheers. Police estimated some 100,000 people turned out. Benedict told the crowd that God is calling him to dedicate himself even more to prayer and meditation, which he will do in a secluded monastery being renovated for him on the grounds behind Vatican City ancient walls. And that is pretty much the story. Again, I didn't know what to think about this story when it first came out. It came out, I wasn't surprised that he was stepping down. I was actually surprised that people were surprised he was stepping down. One of the main reasons that I was kind of surprised, was that the fact that I didn't think that. I mean, yeah, it's a life job, but it doesn't mean he had to stay there for the rest of his life. He can actually retire at any given day he wants. I believe he was 79 when he was picked. So he had a good run. Mind you, there were some bumpy roads, a lot of stuff that have happened before, doing, and even when he leaves, that the church as a whole needs to seriously address. There's a lot of stuff that the church has that hurt the church, that hurts their policies in the last 20 years, and they need to really address it head on, and that's something that even the new pope needs to understand. Um, but in all, I wasn't shocked. I knew that a lot of people was going to raise questions. There's a scandal that a lot of people is bringing up in the news lately, that may have paid a tribute to his retiring, which I seriously doubt it. I really doubt that it's happened. Even if the scandal is there and is just being surfaces, I don't think he's retiring just for that. But to me, it was like, okay, where are you retiring? That's all right. Well, I guess they're going to be picking a new pope soon. Um, I'm not mad at him. I'm really not. I mean, he knows his limits. He knows that his spirit may be there to do it, but his body may be telling otherwise. And be honest, he's 85 years old. Um, Let the man, live out the rest of his life in peace. That's how I see it. I was actually more surprised they actually picked him at the age of 79. I was very, very shocked. I was very, very. I'm like, wow, they really went for the age for that one. A friend of mine told me that they normally pick them that old for a reason, because they don't want them around too long. And if they die, they pretty much know he's pretty much, walking, with a time limit. So I kind of understand that to a degree, but still, I mean, he was 79 years old when he got picked, and I'm like, okay, all right, well, I guess somewhat makes sense. But my overall feeling to him, and I noticed it a lot with a lot of people who had the opportunity to talk about it, um, as a whole, I don't have too much to say with him because, one, I'm not a Catholic. I don't follow the faith frequently. I have been to Catholic church, especially when I was in Boys Town. We went to a Catholic church. It was very different than my Baptist church. But I'm still more recognizable with Pope John Paul than him. Pope John Paul was a very larger than life man. He really was out there. He was really embracing the crowd. So it was not. It was. He was almost unavoidable. So when he died, I was more in tune to what was going on. His funeral. Benedict, he was there, but I never really felt he was out there. He wasn't like John Paul. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. You don't have to be John Paul. And but I didn't really have too much. I know it was the Pope, and that was it. That's how it was. So I didn't have that much true connection with him in terms of what he was in the media. And I think a lot of people felt the same way, because a lot of people who was not in that Catholic, who was not in the Catholic faith, really didn't have much to say about him. They heard of it and said okay, and just kept it moving. That was it. I was one of them. But in my feeling towards why people felt that this is a shock to the religious faith, he's just stepping down. I don't see that being a big of a deal. I saw when I heard of it, I said okay, he's stepping down. And that means, and he gave them at least a good time before they can pick his predecessor, which I think they're gonna do right after he steps down on Thursday. We probably will know who the Pope is on Friday, because I never forget that after the Pope John Paul's death, they replaced him almost immediately. I mean, they had the service where everybody paid their final respect, but the moment they actually buried him, 2 days later, new Pope. So I think that the new Pope will be there soon. I do know that's a very, very big thing. A lot of people was curious about who the new pope's going to be, what's his new policy is going to be. It's definitely going to be some changes, at least in terms of how the church is run with this pope, how conservative he's going to be, which I think he is. But other than that, I really don't really care. I mean, that's how it is. I'm sorry, but I just don't really care. It's not because I think the guy's a creep. I just, it's something that he didn't throw himself out there enough for me to say, wow, this guy is energized. I want to see what more he does. He really kept himself pretty much isolated. He made appearance when his need to be made appearance, but he really wasn't. He really wasn't throwing himself out there to the crowd. At least not what John Paul was. It's not a bad thing, but that's pretty much all I can remember. He was more of a laid-back pope and made decisions more so behind the curtain than he was just throwing himself out there. Um, but in any case, he gotten the proper send off. I'm kind of glad that a lot of people cheered him. Even those who didn't agree with his policies, they showed their respects. And now is the question of who's going to take over in his absence. Who's going to take over his shoes, which I think a lot of Catholic faiths are kind of concerned about. Heading to one more topic. This is in New York, which I have to admit didn't really thought this was going to happen, but he actually won. This is a report about Robert Bell. He's a 26-year-old male, and he won a settlement. It's not much, mind you. It's not $1 million settlement. It's a pretty much if you look at it now, it's pretty much like a small claim settlement. But it says here the man who fought for his rights to flip the bird now has some cash in his hand. Robert Bell, 26, won $15,000 settlement from the city on Tuesday after he sued, arguing that his First Amendment rights were violated when Greenwich Village cop arrested him in 2011 for flipping off a group of officers. The federal court's record shows. Bell's an information technology recruiter who said he used the settlement fund to pay for his law school, and he felt vindicated by the decision, and that he'll give the NYPD the middle finger suit again if I thought an officer was in the wrong for something. I would do it, he said. I would just ensure that the preface any criticism with any due respect. Yeah, I didn't think that was going to happen. According to the DNAinfo.com, New York was the first to report this. They said the New Jersey resident was leaving his home when three officers walked past him. He said in a legal document showed with an officer backed to him, Bell raised his middle finger for 1 to 2 seconds, he said. But little did he know that the fourth officer who lagged behind his colleague spotted the offending gesture. He swooped in and arrested Bell. You think that's funny, the officer said, and he handcuffed Bell, according to the lawsuit. The officer searched Bell's pockets and asked him why he had made the gesture. Because I don't like cops, he said, according to the lawsuit. Bell was held at the 6th Precinct Station House, released after about 2 hours, and charged with disorderly conduct for making an obscene gesture and causing police alarm and annoyance. Causing public alarm and annoyance. The suit said. Representative by the New York Civil Liberties Union, Bell pleaded not guilty to the charges on October 2011, and the case was dismissed after the officers who filed the police report failed to appear in court to testify against Bell, according to the lawsuit. He decided to file a lawsuit which charged the police with violating the Constitution, assault, false arrest, and imprisonment, and inflicting emotional distress. Really? Because he thought he was been wrong, his attorney have said. The attorney argued that the city settlement with Bell fits into a bigger context of previous challenges to police in which he includes stop and frisk. Change at chance at trial. With outrageous facts like these, they know they didn't want the jury to hear about it. He said the city attorneys who handled the case said the statement that the settlement is not an admission of a New York City Police Department error. The settlement is in the party's best interest. Um, they didn't want to make the police look bad. I mean, come on, let's be real. The staffer said it is not an indication of any public police wrongdoing. And that's the story right there. It's not a big sum, so that's one. They settled for 15,000. Fine. Um, I would say the guy was being a jerk. I'm not gonna keep it real. Cops don't like it when you mock them. At the same time, did they overreact? Yes. The cops really did overreact. That was beyond overreacting. You can't really. A guy's gonna be a knucklehead, but as long as you ain't putting your hands on your fellow police officers or spitting on the ground or anything else, then they should have just walked away. They should have just walked away. Obviously, that cop took offense to it. Caters his fellow cop, especially on that cop didn't see that middle finger. His partner did, and pretty much he acted pretty much too hastily. Um, Again, this is one of those things that I kind of find strange because I'm like, I did never expected someone to sue because he himself gave the middle finger and he felt his civil rights was violated. I will say, at least he was honest in that lawsuit. He basically explained why he did what he did. You just don't like cops. But you really got it. But there is a cause and effect for doing something like that. I'm always curious about when people do stuff like this. Would they have done that if the cop was facing face to face? Why do it when the person's back is to them? To me, that's a cowardly act to do. As for the emotional distress, I seriously doubt it. I mean, the case was dismissed. He saw money. Let's call it like it is. He saw green. He saw a chance to make a payday. He knew he had something against on him. And yeah, in many ways, despite him being a jerk about what he did, they did violate his rights. I mean, there is nothing in the rule book saying you can't be that you have to like cops and you have to respect them. Now, if he would have put their hands on him, then that would be a different story. Because now you are. As for our scene, really, you're gonna take the guy to court and put him in jail for that? Come on. They didn't even take it seriously because they didn't even show up for court. That's how stupid it was. It really was. So in many cases, I think the police did jump the gun. At least that one officer did. There was no need for that. And let's be realistic. If the city thought they can actually sweep this on the rug by paying the guy $15,000, they're gonna just take it and say, you know what, the hell with this. Here's $15,000. Leave it alone. We just felt it was in the best interest. If he would have sued for millions, then you better believe this would have been a battle because the court is going to say for what? There was no need to sue him for millions, but he settled for a little bit less, and that's pretty much the gist of it. As for them compared this to the stop and frisk, it's a very different scenario because stop and frisk, that has to do with more profiling than anything else. And how they and what neighborhood they profile. And that's the big difference, and that's one of the things that I'm definitely against it because you definitely profiling certain group of people, or just for or having them wear certain selective clothes. It's not like that. This guy actually welcomed the police with open arms. He actually welcomed them. And he got that welcoming that comes expecting. But cyberfish is a little bit different because it is racial profiling, and it's been proven, even though the mayor doesn't agree with it, is racial profiling. The mayor has a lot of other things in his shoes to deal with this week, especially with the soda ban, which a lot of people are now realizing just how much that soda ban is going to cost grocery stores and as well as other businesses. And it's going to be interesting to see how that court appeal is going to be handled. because there is a massive court appeal and lawsuits piling up. And so, see what happened with that situation. But that's just about it, guys. That's all I got. All articles I talked about will be kept in the link description. Like to hear your opinion on these matters. But until then, this is J77 saying take care, be safe, and I'll talk to you soon.